Can everybody hear me just fine? If you could let me know that, that would be awesome. I want to make sure that everybody can hear me okay. I know sometimes YouTube stays lagging, so okay. I think we're good. I think that we're all right. I hope everybody's doing pretty well. I'm enjoying my Sunday. It's been a lot of work, dealing with political tomfoolery as usual. As you can see, Cenk has started with his bullshit again. No, in all seriousness, people, there are a lot of commentators that I can respectfully disagree with, and still at least maintain some like respect for them. Like, I don't agree with everything that Tim Black says, or everything that H.A. Goodman says, or everything that Hard Bastard or Jamarl Thomas or Kalen Johnston. I don't agree with everything they say. Even Ben Dixon, Noah Jonga. I don't agree with everything, but I do, at least for the most part, believe in their intent and their intentions, which in my opinion is almost more important than what you say, because what you say can be misconstrued. It can be taken the wrong way. You could have a lack of information that you didn't, may not have had access to at that point in time. And, as a journalist, you do have a responsibility to be timely, and you do have a responsibility to be accurate. But sometimes you don't know where to look for the information, or, it's maybe the information you got is inaccurate, but you had good intentions. You intended on being honest. You intended on being transparent, and you make a good effort to ensure that, that it doesn't happen again. You have a history of going out of your way to make sure that your information is accurate. So when something like this comes up from somebody that I greatly respect, I usually don't take it as a big deal. I might correct them. I might talk about it with them. Hey, what made you say that? Oftentimes, they'll correct themselves. They'll provide me with information to substantiate their claim, or, I'll provide them with information that will contradict it. But once again, I can have these type of conversations, and I feel this way about people who I feel like have good, truthful, and honest intentions. Cenk Uygur is not one of those people. I feel like he is a snake. And I don't use that term loosely. I feel like he is purposely divisive. I feel like he is purposely misleading. And anybody who has watched my channel before knows exactly why I feel this way. Whether it's his coverage of the Democratic primary or the general election, his biased coverage regarding Russia and everything involving Russia, it's always been the same. He swears to God that he hates that he hates mainstream media, that mainstream media is the devil, that mainstream media is evil. And yet, he constantly quotes articles by mainstream media. It doesn't make any sense, ladies and gentlemen. And it's not like fact, because if it was fact-based, I get it. He has more resources than I do. I don't have the resources to go get every single fact straight out of, from the primary source. I get that. Facts are one thing, but he constantly quotes opinionated articles from mainstream media, articles that cite no sources, or anonymous sources even though we've seen how many times where they'll have to retract the story. they have to double back. We just saw it with ABC News. We saw it with CNN earlier this year. We saw it with New York Times earlier this year. Time and time again, we've seen them have to retract stories, but time and time again, we've seen TYT, Cenk, Anna, even Nomiki to a large degree, quoting stories that have been retracted, that have been edited, that have been redacted, that, you know, with names that have been, I mean, just it's getting bothersome. And the reason I bring this up is because of this tweet that Cenk put out yesterday afternoon, and I wanted to see if he would follow up with some kind of clarification, which is why I didn't, you know, do an initial video about it like when I wanted to. But he did not. He left it at that. He never commented afterwards. And the tweet says, if Donald Trump fires Robert Mueller, people should go into the streets. It should be Tahrir Square. Oh man, goodness gracious. Tahrir Square-like uprising. We must defend our democracy and the rule of law. This should be a popular uprising like we've never seen in America. There's two huge problems. Two huge problems with this tweet. And two huge problems with the fact that Cenk is the one who decided to have the audacity to tweet this. The first huge problem would be that, one, for all intents and purposes, Donald Trump at this very moment in time would be perfectly justified in firing Robert Mueller. Perfectly justified. When you go after an independent, or when you place a special prosecutor, an independent investigator, it's just like when you're an investigator outside of you know, in the not civilian world, but in a police department. If I, as a paralegal, when I was doing investigations as a paralegal, I mean, you want to make sure that the person doing the special, quote unquote, special investigation is going to be as objective as humanly possible. No, you cannot remove all bias from a situation. I'm not naive enough to believe so. But I expect a certain amount of objectivity. A certain amount of objectivity. Not a lot, but mostly, you know? I don't expect you to have just been in charge of Comey, who you appointed to be at the second in command before you took over. Or excuse me, Comey took over the FBI after Mueller did. Obviously, they were close, which is why he was appointed. I don't expect you to take the advice of a corporation in CrowdStrike. For those of you who don't know, CrowdStrike is they're like the defenders of the servers that the DNC hired, that claim that Russia actually initially hacked the DNC servers without providing any proof. And then, of course, like I said, later we find out that this guy, the CEO of CrowdStrike, used to work for Mueller and is actually still pretty good friends with the guy. When I think of objectivity, you don't go one special prosecutor removed and expect to have a different outcome than when I say special prosecutor, I mean like he was just in charge of the FBI right before Comey. They clearly have a relationship, which would obviously contrast with James Comey and Trump's currently trepidatious relationship. Like, that's not the guy that should have been hired. I don't even know how he was hired. I'm gonna be totally honest with you, but I really can't remember. Like, I just remember doing research on Mueller immediately and thinking to myself, what the hell? How did this happen? You know? But we can say, because people would then say, because this would be my next logical argument, well, we don't know if just because he has this background that he would then be considered objective, or he would be subjective and biased. We don't know if he would act biased under these circumstances. Okay, I'll bite. You start doing the investigation into the Russia nonsense, Russiagate, right? Okay. Have you arrested anyone for the Uranium One situation? Are you investigating Comey for the Uranium One situation that he clearly let go under his nose? Are you investigating James Comey for lying under oath? Are you investigating Hillary Clinton? Are you investigating Barack Obama? Because Barack Obama obviously is indeed connected to the Uranium One situation with Russia. Are you investigating James Comey for allowing the Uranium One situation to happen? Are you investigating James Comey for allowing Hillary Clinton to go without any type of indictment, without allowing the law to do its job? Are you investigating for that? The answer to all these questions is no. Robert, and the reason why it's important that I say he has to investigate all of these matters, because the main concern about Trump, the what they say is, we think he may have received assistance by Russia because Russia wants Trump to win, and Trump has business ties with Russia. I mean, business ties and top secret transactions by a former Secretary of State, current Clinton Foundation member, with the former president receiving a direct transfer of funds for speaking in Russia, with this Uranium One plan, with John Podesta, who was going to be the chief of staff, helped run Hillary Clinton's campaign, and was formerly Obama's chief of staff, has shares in Juul Energy, which is obviously connected to the Uranium One, which is a Kremlin-backed energy company, by the way, which boomed. It was not doing that well in the beginning, but when John Podesta bought his shares, all of a sudden it started doing very well. Okay? If anyone, once again, if anyone has anything to gain from the quote-unquote Russia hacking or the Russia conspiracy, or having somebody that you are currently and will hopefully in the future benefit from, if we're basing this just off of business and monetary ties, then wouldn't you think that it would be Hillary Clinton you want to investigate? I have no doubt in my mind that as a billionaire, Trump has one or two ties to Russia. You're a billionaire businessman. Of course he does. I don't think Trump is nefarious to start planning 2-3 years before he announced that he was running for president to plot with Putin on how to quote unquote hack our election process. Mind you, we didn't know that Trump was going to win. We kind of thought that at first, we thought that he was going to get his ass whooped. Because remember, he's tried this with the Democratic Party. He ran the Democrat before. And he was like a laughing stock. But the Republican Party is a little bit different. What it takes to win the Republican nomination is a little bit different. So we didn't know. The RNC was working against him. As a matter of fact, Assange even said that he tried to get, in an interview, he said that he tried to, they did receive emails from the RNC. But the problem is, which makes sense if you have been following Julian Assange long enough, the issue is that there was nothing on Trump outside of the RNC trying to essentially not sabotage, but work against Trump, because they didn't want him representing them, because they didn't think that, they know he's outside of the establishment. They didn't like that because he was uncontrollable. But Trump himself had not been in office long enough, involved directly in politics long enough to have a book of emails stacked up that could be used against him politically. Everything that's ever been released by Assange, we know, is public industry stuff, politics, public figures, politicians, political consultants, military people. Private economic matters have not really been a big thing for Assange, especially in regards to American politics specifically. Most of the revelations that we get from Assange are all politically based, which is why there was nothing on Donald Trump. Now, they probably, if someone wanted to hack his emails, there's something, I guarantee it, there's something in there about something. But back then, Assange had nothing to go off of. He even asked Donald Trump Jr. to provide emails so that they could, so if they were innocent, that Julian Assange could use WikiLeaks to publish those emails and exonerate them. That's why he asked for the emails from Donald Trump Jr. I think that's actually a good thing to do. It shows that you are objective, that you're not just attacking one party, because we know before he used to attack the Republicans. I wouldn't say attacked. He released information about the Republicans that got Chelsea Manning arrested and thrown in jail. Before, Democrats used to love Assange. But my point is that Robert Mueller has been very, very, very selective and very, very, very decisive in what he chooses to investigate and what he chooses not to investigate. Another example would be the Paul Manafort situation. Paul Manafort was arrested by Robert Mueller. Was indicted, I should say, by Robert Mueller. He's on house arrest right now. Robert Mueller did everything in his power that he could to pretend that that arrest, that indictment had anything to do with the Russian investigation. It literally had absolutely nothing to do with the Russian investigation. It was about some corrupt business practices in Romania, in the Ukraine, which businessmen tend to have, especially real estate businessmen. They have a lot of corrupt dealings in the Ukraine, Romania, and Bulgaria. But I cannot believe that Cenk thinks that this is okay. Because it's a legitimate attempt to deceive the public. And because of course they're gonna, because he was his campaign manager, so what are they gonna say? Yeah, if Paul Manafort got arrested for this, he was Trump's campaign manager. Obviously, they're guilty. You know what I'm saying? Like, it stirs the pot, and it stirs the pot, and everybody starts believing it. So at that point, a good, because you know how he always likes to call himself independent media and alternative media, a good independent journalist, a good alternative media journalist, someone who is separate from the establishment, would have reported that instantly, like many of us did. Progressive, Republican, conservative, Democrat, any progressive or any independent media, a lot of us all reported that. Cenk didn't. Cenk ignored it. No, actually, I lied. He didn't ignore it. In fact, he bolstered the claims that Manafort's arrest was indeed attached to Russia, and it was not. But let's talk about the whole people should be going into the streets. This is legitimately what people should be going into the streets for, Cenk. You know, whenever the Uranium One information broke again, because remember, we all knew about the Uranium One situation. Those who have been paying attention were not surprised by this by any means. In fact, the total opposite. We weren't surprised by that. We knew about that. The New York Times published that in like 2015 or 2014. We brought it back up in 2015. Remember, we brought this. We already knew about this. Because the Clinton Foundation became a big center of discussion during the election process and the primaries. And that's how it got brought back up. Cenk, of course, ignored it. Then it gets brought up again. He finally has to cover it because it ends up in the mainstream media. And there was no outrage from him. In fact, somehow he actually managed to take that story and blame Trump for it. He did. He legitimately did that. somehow it became it's Trump's fault that the uranium one deal happened. And then he was like, yeah, I mean, I guess if they did something wrong, we should hold them accountable. Hold up. So at first, Russia is our worst enemy, right? He's our worst enemy. We should, absolutely, positively, prosecute Trump if he has any ties to Russia whatsoever, because they're the number one enemy. They're not our friends, etc., etc. Then what happens? Hillary, directly connected to Russia, who was at the time running for president when we found all this information out, no outrage. We shouldn't be taking to the streets, is what you're saying. We just gave 20% of our uranium to the people you swear are mortal enemies that are trying to blow us off the face of the planet. If they could blow us off the face of the planet, it would probably be due to a lot of the uranium that Hillary Clinton gave them. But no, that's not a big problem for you. So, what about, just out of curiosity, the election fraud during the Democratic primary? That not just like a little bit of we've proven election fraud time and time and time again. What about the election fraud? What you told us to do was to bend over backwards, be glad that we got some lubrication, some KY jelly, some good old KY, some good old his and hers, and maybe hers and hers, depending on what you get into. Some good old KY jelly. And hey, just be happy that, that we have an option. Even though we really didn't have any options. Hillary and Trump were not really considered options by my standards. Bend over backwards, vote for Hillary, get over it, is what we were told by Cenk. She's far better than Trump. Trump's the one working with Russia. Then Uranium One comes back out again. He made so many bold claims that were based off of anonymous sources from the mainstream media, no less. And then what? Everything got backtracked. And he won't cover the retractions from CNN. He won't cover the retraction from ABC. He didn't cover the retraction from the Michael Flynn story, where he was supposed to testify that Trump did in fact collude with Russia. He covered the initial story though. You bet you know Cenk. You know TYT. They jumped on that shit. Yeah, absolutely. We knew that Flynn eventually would squeal. Then it got retracted. The guy got suspended for publishing the story. That was also based off of anonymous sources. What a surprise, right? But you didn't see him do a retraction story. Nor has he talked about it. Nor has he tweeted about it. So we're not supposed to be outraged about the fabric of our democracy being destroyed during the election, the primary election. And there was actually a clear attempt to have it destroyed during the during the general election as well. The problem was, however, that Trump was actually wildly popular in certain areas of each state, and he galvanized so many people for whatever reason that reason may be. He galvanized a lot of people. A lot of progressives voted for Trump just so Hillary Clinton would not win, because those progressives are actually pretty intelligent. They understand if we give Hillary Clinton the Supreme Court, it is done. There is no holding anyone else accountable. That's it. They understand that assuming that Hillary Clinton was going to appoint a progressive in the Supreme Court was laughable. It would actually be more likely that she would bring in a conservative to the Supreme Court, because they were going to lose. Like, the Democrats were going to lose their seats, mostly because that's just the way it goes. They were going to lose their seats in the Senate. They were going to lose their seats in the House. By all statistical standards, when someone galvanizes people into registering, people registering Republican and registering, switching out of Democrat even. Some people switch from independent into Republican just to vote for Donald Trump. That usually means they're going to go out and they're going to vote for the other Republicans as well. So they were going to lose the seats. Hillary Clinton's number one goal was going to be to pass TPP. And she would have sacrificed us to get that done. Which, and by sacrifice, I mean sacrifice the Supreme Court seat. And when I say sacrifice the Supreme Court, and what she would have called it is, we have to learn how to compromise. We can't have it our way. Healthcare would be in worse shape, in my humble opinion, as somebody who's worked in the industry. It would be in worse shape under Hillary Clinton. Progressives knew if we allow Hillary Clinton to take office, the establishment on both sides wins unequivocally. Not even close. That's it. She will wipe out every opportunity that we would have had to prosecute and hold people accountable. DNC fraud lawsuit, imagine if that goes to a Supreme Court where the judge was appointed by Hillary Clinton. Imagine Debbie Wasserman Schultz walking free. Uma Abedin walking free. Iwan brothers walking free. All of a sudden, the Russia narrative wouldn't even exist. You know, we talked about it. We made up. We would still be in Syria fighting. CIA would still be training terrorists in Syria. We still have a lot of work to do overseas, don't get me wrong. But Syria specifically is -1 country, whereas with right now it's -1 country, but with Hillary it would have been easily +2 or 3. Everything that Trump is doing is temporary. It can be overturned, it can be changed. Some things that he's doing is actually good, like the thing that he did with Syria. Like how he was forcing Jeff Sessions to hold Hillary Clinton accountable. That is actually a good thing. And Cenk trying to pretend like he gives a shit about rule of law when you weren't actively fighting against election fraud. You refused to talk about it. You weren't fighting. You weren't even acknowledging it. You didn't. We should have, the moment that Hillary Clinton walked off scot-free, when I've seen my brothers and sisters in arms be arrested, veterans, be arrested for accidentally sending a classified email. Accidentally sending a classified email. Accidentally sending a top secret email will land you in Camp Lejeune for 3 years. But Hillary Clinton moved a whole server to her house. No, perfectly fine. Got spies killed because she revealed their names. Perfectly fine. But hey, Cenk, hey, this is the thing. Trump firing corrupt ass Robert Mueller, who overlooked, let's just say he's not corrupt. He's grossly fucking incompetent. How are you overlooking Uranium One? How are you not investigating John Podesta? How are you not investigating the other Podesta who was arrested, but was arrested on some other counts? How are you not investigating Obama's just his lack of concern for what Hillary Clinton was doing? That's gross negligence as well. How are you not addressing any of these things? The fact that John Podesta was Barack Obama's chief of staff when he had those shares, the 45,000 shares in Juul, which was the Russian-backed and the Kremlin-backed Russian energy company. How are you not investigating these things? How are these things slipping through the cracks, ladies and gentlemen? But you're going to go and knock on Paul Manafort, because we all know Paul Manafort has so much influence in politics. Paul Manafort's international. You know, he's out there like the Clinton Foundation. Just going from country to country, ravishing, and like that's, yeah. Everybody thinks about Paul Manafort when they think about political influence. No. We haven't heard you talk about. You're supposed to be this quote unquote special investigator. If Robert Mueller gets fired, it's because he deserves it. Just like we come to find out later that Comey deserved it. He was lying. He lied under oath. He admitted it under oath again. He lied. He should have been fired. And for those who think that because I agree with the fact that Robert Mueller should be fired and we should actually have an objective third party then appoint a special prosecutor that is approved for the most part by both sides of the house, by both sides of the aisle, then we can have an investigation. But just because I think Mueller should be fired, it doesn't mean that I agree with Trump. It doesn't mean that I like Trump. It doesn't mean that I don't believe in rule of law. In fact, it is a total opposite. I absolutely believe in the rule of law. And I believe that rule of law and the outrage regarding the rule of law in such circumstances should be, it should be objective, not selective. And Cenk is the king of selective outrage. I was mad when Bernie Sanders was cheated. I was just as mad when Donald Trump won and I found out that Hillary Clinton was still attempting to rig the election. Through our findings of what happened in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, she was still rigging it. She was still trying to rig it against Trump. I was just as pissed. when I found out about the gerrymandering that the Republican Party was doing and that Trump was allowing and is still allowing. I was mad even though Doug Jones won. I'm still absolutely livid about what Alabama attempted to do during this election and during the election, the general election and the primary election, by closing the DMVs, ensuring that people, initiating strict voter ID laws and then closing DMVs, trying to make sure that people couldn't get IDs in their gerrymandering. My outrage, and I hope yours as well, is not exclusive to a party, not even exclusive to a person. I'm outraged and I am sick of this system that we live in and we seemingly perpetuate with our complacency. With complacency of people who consider themselves authority on how you should feel about the political climate, like Cenk. I am not a Republican, nor am I a Democrat. I am the definition of an independent. I make my decision when the facts reveal themselves. Even if I like you, it doesn't mean I can't be outraged by you. Even if I don't like you, it doesn't mean that I cannot admit when you've done something good. If you are coming from a place that is genuine, if you are coming from a place that is truthful, and that's once again genuinely your intent, then I have no reason to think that we can't respectfully disagree from time to time. No reason at all to believe that. But if you are coming from a place that is deceitful, if you're coming from a place like Cenk, that it's corporate backed, corporate driven. I didn't forget about that $20 million from that nice little Clinton and Obama donor that you got. Your message became completely corrupted the moment you jumped on the Fusion, when you and Anna hopped on the Fusion channel, when you started receiving the corporate backing. Come on, y'all. Please don't be one of those that falls for the fake outrage, because this is exactly what it is. It is indeed fake outrage, and I hope that you all will spread this message and share this video, because at the end of the day, we are, not me or anybody else, but we as a unit are the truth tellers, and truth can only, especially in this age of net neutrality and being repealed, and we're constant war against independent media and progressivism and just anti-establishmentism, which I think most of us are, or you wouldn't be here watching and listening. We have to share. We have to support each other. I constantly am sharing my colleagues' videos. I'm constantly retweeting them. I'm constantly talking to them because it's necessary. We are the self-perpetuators of truth, because if we don't perpetuate truth, then nobody will. If we don't propagate, honesty and the facts, nobody else will, people. And not only will no one else propagate these truths and these facts, but we will see them suppressed. And it happens. I had to complain on Facebook. I think I told y'all about this. So I've had to complain to Facebook support because they were removing my friends from my page, like making them dislike my page. The problem was, it wasn't like, I thought, okay, maybe I'm just saying something controversial and that's why. That wasn't it. Cause I turn on my follower account, cause you have like a like button and you have a follow button on Facebook as well for your public figure pages. I turn on my follower button to find out that all the people that had quote unquote unliked my page were still there following the page, which means that they did not actually unlike my page. They were forcibly removed. The follower count still to this day from the people who like my page on Facebook versus the people who follow my page on Facebook is closing on about 500 people. That is the difference. So that means over the course of the last 6 months or so, Facebook, as I was creeping on 10,000 likes, decided to arbitrarily remove people from my page. So I finally, had enough of it, and I was threatening, obviously not violent way, but threatening to use my platform. And all of a sudden the problem got fixed. All of a sudden I hit 10,000 followers or likes like that. All of a sudden, right? Literally, it took a day after I made that complaint. 75 likes back on my page. All of a sudden my page started showing up on people's timelines again, just like that. But that's what I mean. Like, they will suppress us. They will suppress the truth if we don't share, if we don't talk about the things that we notice, the weird instances that we notice, like talk about untruths being spoken, like the one we're seeing right now by Cenk. We got to keep doing it. And so I thank you all so much for watching. Greatly appreciate it. Make sure you check out the last video I did. I just posted it about an hour and a half ago, talking about the doctor Lorich. I might be butchering his name a little bit, but essentially he was a doctor who went to work in Haiti and was kind of like cut off at every turn by the Clinton Foundation and people connected to the Clinton Foundation while he was in Haiti. He actually reported that it was a shit show in Haiti when he got back. And this is a famous doctor. That was his biggest problem, because he actually had influence in Hollywood. He was Bono's doctor and surgeon as well. There's actually a WikiLeak involving an email of him detailing how bad the Haiti situation was and how horribly mismanaged it was by the Clinton Foundation. So definitely go check out that video. The WikiLeak email is in the link that's under that video. So make sure, like in the link of the article that's under that video. So make sure you click on the article as well and check out the email itself. Other than that, thank you all so much for watching. And always remember, people, find your balance.